Hi there, this is Sarah from Standing Up to Scoliosis and the Scolio Temple. Just doing my next video. I'm going to do, so I started a series of leaflets that are all going to piece together to go in my book, which is all about the science and a lot of the new research on the myofascial system, or the whole fascial system, and anything to do with physical therapy really, and the effects of trauma and injury and disease on the soft tissues and the nervous system, and ways that therapy helps restore that basically. So my second video is this talk I'm just doing a bit today is basically it's titled the nervous system and the fascia, and I want the main focus to be on how the nervous system changes with trauma and injury and disease, and how as therapists we're aiming to restore that back to a normal, like, sort of brainwave and nerve conduction functioning state. So I also added in the title, basically, because it's about the nervous system and it's about nerve conduction, how energy relates to this, like piezoelectric, electromagnetic energy. So some people, obviously, when you get into trying to get back in tune with your body and to like heal and, you know, to get back your proprioception, your interoception in your body from being disassociated and traumatized and disconnected. Obviously, when you start to move and meditate and try and like connect back to yourself, you want to connect back to a body that is in a normal neurological state. So this video is like purely about the science of this. It's not, I don't want this video to go into anything sort of spiritual or religious, but a lot of the science and the new science is out now does actually explain some of these sort of phenomenon, which I think is worth a mention really, because I keep all my practice, all my videos, purely scientific, because I think it's important. It's important to do what's really based on facts. And I'm not saying that I have no belief in anything else. It's just that, I just want to keep all the practices like purely like factual, and as safe and scientifically sound as possible. But yeah, having said that, there are explanations that can explain some sort of religious, spiritual types of phenomenon that people can experience when they start to connect back to their body and meditate. And there are certain pitfalls, that I've seen people go into with this. So I think it's just worth, because my page is all about self-empowerment and helping people on their journey of healing themselves. It is worth mentioning pitfalls that people can go into and explaining the neuroscience of that phenomenon and why they're feeling what they're feeling. So yeah, let's start from the basics. So we have a nervous system that when we're born as babies, so I've recently been studying in a lot more detail embryological development and development of the nervous system from childhood and into full development. So obviously, as we know with scoliosis, like this is when the curve will form and the issues start. So it seems to be that there's maybe something related to some neurodevelopmental thing that possibly began earlier in childhood, and then when we were in our developmental years and growth spurts, the nerves didn't adjust to adulthood from childhood. And let me explain that. So when we're born, we're born floppy. We're born in like a floppy neurological defense mode as babies. We have no muscle tone. We have no strength. So what that is that we have nerves that they haven't developed their myelin sheath yet. They haven't developed their fast conduction. And interestingly, during that time, we have no memory of being a baby either, consciously. So, this neuroscience is fascinating on how we develop, and how, as we, like, when we start developing our memory, is around the time that we really are developing our physical strength and our ability for our nerves to develop myelin sheaths and start conducting faster and stopping the floppy reflex sort of defense modes that babies are in. So why is this relevant to scoliosis? Because obviously in scoliosis, we are developing some muscles that are overly tight and strong and tense and are having lots of this myelin sheath, conduction, and others that are floppy and they're not holding us up. It's like they're almost stuck in that primitive baby state. And and we see this as people get older. So this is the other interesting thing about the new neuroscience and science of the fascial system. It's all related together, all this like research, all interlinks and interweaves. But because the nervous system in the fascial system is related to our unconscious reflexes, and it's very highly innervated by nerve receptors. So it's all about the soft tissues that connect all the organs together, all about proprioception and feeling, and unconscious sort of control, of our body. So this is why the fascia and the nervous system are so related and so important for physical therapy. So we're born with no myelin sheaths, and as we develop like strength and tension in our body and good posture and good alignment, we get more myelin sheaths, we get faster, our brain is like faster, we become smarter, all this, able to process things better. And maybe in scoliosis, part of those muscles or certain ones, holding the spine up, just don't develop enough. They stay a little bit slower or floppier. But I mean, that doesn't mean that someone is like underdeveloped with scoliosis, because often, and then we see an overcompensation of other areas that are like overdeveloped. So yeah, I'm just sort of, all people, I mean, some people might have this like thing with their spine, but there might be other people that have this in other areas subtly of their body, that people don't even notice about. So it could even explain why some people struggle to like lose weight or get muscle tension in their body, and will stay like bigger and floppier, and even though they're like trying to be healthy and eat well. But anyway, so we start with no myelin sheaths, and then when we get injuries and disease in the body, again we lose myelin sheaths. So we go into defense mode. You remember, I think I mentioned this in my first video about the fascia, is that when you have injury and trauma, your body locks up and goes into defense mode, and it sacrifices myelin sheaths. Why does it do this? Why does it have to slow the nerve conduction down to the area? And why do you then lose conscious memory of that and lose proprioceptive awareness? So it's like you're reverting back to the primitive baby state while your body's healing. And this is how we are in the womb. Like, we're in the most fetal baby state of the lot, and this is the state we go back into when we have injury and illness in the body, because this is how our body creates the stem cells and to regenerate and to repair. Well, it locks, goes forward into that state, and that's good. That's what we want. We want the nervous system. It's like it goes into darkness basically, and you lose a sort of a memory and awareness of that trauma and injury. And that's good. And sometimes, naturally, if that injury heals quickly, like quicker than 2 weeks, there's a sort of ballpark figure. If it's not that bad an injury, it repairs the damage quite quick. Usually the nervous system goes back naturally to a normal state again. And we say normal state, I mean, what's normal, what's not normal? Like, we start the world in the not normal state. Like, none of it is normal or not normal. It's all just different parts of our cycle. you know. And obviously when we're elderly, you see people, you know, we see this muscle weakness, and especially with something like Alzheimer's, you know, or dementia, you know, people going back into this like a baby like state again and locking up, and we see lots of this sort of things going on in that type of sort of illness. So yeah, like reverting back to babyhood again in defense mode. And but yeah, as a physical therapist, we want to get people into warrior mode, you know. We want to get people into strength mode again, into fast, you know, thinking, fast neural, you know. We want to sort of advance things from the injury, defense, protective state. So how does this relate to sort of meditating and proprioception, and what you should tune into, and what you what might be a pitfall? So like if you're trying, so this is like the main thing with any kind of therapy that we see, is that because your nervous system has shut off and it's got stuck. So say the injury was so bad and the trauma was continuous, it kept going for longer than the like 2 weeks, and it didn't naturally go back to normal by itself. So some people will argue, you know, well, you shouldn't alter or try and manipulate or change things at all. Like, you know, that injury, you just let it heal in its own time, just rest, you know. But then there would be no job for a therapist at all then, would there? Like, what's the point in that role? So why does the therapist exist? Why is it sometimes not enough that someone just naturally heals and goes back to that state? Well, because the injury has gone on for too long. The healing process has gone on for longer than the sort of 2 weeks, and it's a larger injury, or it's continuous. It keeps happening over and over again for whatever reason. Someone keeps repeating something, they don't realise they're damaging, they don't sense it. You know, we see this with people training for marathon running. Like, I've heard so many stories where people don't even feel that they're damaging their body, and then they've crushed it too far, and then they've got serious injury and problem that just seems to come out of nowhere, but it's not, it's built up over time. But yeah, why, if that's taken longer to heal and it's been in that floppy state, like I keep going like this because this is the way my curve goes, but it's been longer. So because it's been a longer length of time, your whole body then has adapted around. So say you've injured the wrist and it's like gripping on, you know, here, like that whole body then, because it's not naturally just come back quite quickly, your body has to adapt around it, you know, compensate around it, and it will stay locked and tight. And sometimes, you know, because it's been in that sort of I don't use deformed, but you could say that misshapen, you know, locked state for so long, it doesn't, you know, it's become so off center that the nerves are no longer able to connect brain and body back to just naturally do it by themselves. So the job of a therapist is to show exercises or massage and hold and support joints and, you know, tissues to then be able to neurologically connect back together to that, to get the myelin sheath to conduct, to get the, you know, to get the proprioception back to mind and body. So, you know, there are a number of different reasons why someone can stay locked in the defense mode. So one reason is that the nerves have just lost their connection to do it naturally by themselves, and they just need a helping hand. And that is a great state. That is when you're going to get really positive results from physical therapy. You're going to go along, you'll be like, I had this past injury, and this injury can be like 10 years ago, and you just didn't do any therapy at the time. You thought it would just heal itself naturally, but it didn't. And then you have like ongoing imbalance issues, and maybe like you've injured that joint again, and you're like, oh, it's weaker, I didn't, you know, that's because you needed some therapy for that, maybe back at the time when it happens, to stop that knocking on and affecting other parts. But that's great. So the mainstay of therapy, and how do we connect mind and body back together? So you're doing your whatever technique, you know, whatever exercise is going to like connect with whatever neurological receptor has been affected that needs a sensory stimulus to be able to connect back again. You know, you're going to get the body into the correct position, and the correct position will allow the correct alignment of mind and body to connect back again. And that's great. You're going to get great results if that body part is fully healed and ready to connect back again. So this is the thing. This is where you have to not try and manipulate things as a therapist. You have to learn to tune into that person's body and just to be very gentle, and is it going to happen naturally if I put you in this position and support you here? Is it going to happen naturally if I give you this, ball to support you, or use this band, or vibrate, use this vibration or whatever? Like, this is like the aim of therapy. The art is almost an art, because you have to be able to tune in intuitively to whether someone is ready for their nervous system to connect back. And sometimes people aren't ready. So why does therapy not work sometimes? Because that person's keeps on re-damaging and injuring that part, and it's not ready to connect back. It wants to stay locked and in defense mode, because it's still slowing the conduction down, sending the inflammation, doing its healing, doing its cellular repair, and it does this at the slower state of conduction. That's how the body functions in trauma. This has been studied. I'm going to do my leaflet. I'm going to send links to these studies, and I find this fascinating, like in sort of illnesses such as something like MS, because in MS the body is naturally attacking its own myelin sheaths, like in nerves that are actually already healthy. So it's almost like the body is like instinctively trying to put itself into that defense mode. So why would it be doing that to nerves that are not injured and are healthy? Like, I don't know, maybe like some, often some people say with MS that there was like a virus or infection that got stuck in the system, and maybe body keeps on trying to attack that virus or thing that just doesn't fully leave. I don't know, but with that is another reason why someone isn't ready to connect the nerves back. So one is that it's still injured and it still needs healing. Another reason when you shouldn't manipulate someone to connect back, to try and force them to connect back, their proprioception, is that there might be still an infection or virus in there that the body is trying to flush out and clear. So in that case, if you sense resistance in the area you're trying to work on, don't push it. Just do some lymphatic drainage, do some work around the area, like like you're not supposed to try and actively spread an infection further around the body. And there are studies to show that sometimes these like locked traumatic parts of the body that not only can hold on to bacteria, they can be viruses lying dormant as well. So you have to be careful as a therapist to learn to sense when someone's ready to connect back and when they're not. I mean, sometimes it's not black and white. Sometimes this is the hard thing. Once the injury's there and the inflammation's there and it's stayed locked in that state, ultimately it's more likely to trap bacteria, it's more likely to have viruses attached to it and all this. So really you want to grab it when overall the person seems in quite a healthy state, quite a positive healthy state, and you want to make sure that they're eating the right foods and having the right. So this is why I'm starting a herbal medicine diploma, because obviously eating the right foods and herbs are going to help regenerate tissues enough. So sometimes there might not be enough collagen or strength in that area that's been damaged, and the nervous system won't connect back because it's just too damaged, the tissues. But if you take the right herb that heals the collagen, and often vitamin C goes hand in hand with rebuilding collagen in the body. So often it's like a dual thing, like you're still fighting off maybe some bad bacteria or toxins or things that have got in while you're trying to rebuild at the same time. So so another reason physical therapy might not work one moment on it, because it's a bit too swollen, it's a bit too but if you eat the right food or do the right thing, then it will connect back. And like a really amazing sort of thing, I say amazing, it's not like magical, amazing, like, you know, miraculous. But I've found it very effective for my personal issues, is the lion's mane mushroom. And the lion's mane mushroom has scientific studies showing it to regenerate myelin sheaths back. So this medicinal mushroom is actually helping the body get back into a state where therapy is going to work better on someone. So I've found, after having like the rods out of my spine, you know, and having chronic infections that were eating away all around the metalwork, you know, I found this recovery a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, because I've lost a lot of my strength. I've had even more floppiness, like in my muscles, and like you know, maybe wastage, like, because the infections, you know, damaged it. And then it was all cut through when it was at its weakest. So it's not been easy, like, rehabbing from having my rods out, you know, considering the circumstances I was in when I had them out. Like, you know, I'm always like lucky to be alive still, really, because I did lose so much weight as well. But the lion's mane has been helping me greatly get rid of the floppiness in the muscles and get them conducting back again to aid, you know, the physical therapies I'm doing. And I also use, like, I think might have shown in a video, I use, like, I bathe in some herbs like horsetail. Is like, gives me loads of collagen. And I take like lots of fruit and berries and things that are super high in vitamin C to help rebuild the collagen in my body as well. So, you know, this therapy is a holistic, like, thing. You have to combine all the right things together and the stars will align, you know. And talking of stars, where the pitfalls can go wrong is, so you obviously want to connect the nervous system back to a positive light state, conscious light state, you know. And you want to do that in a natural flow of our creative order. So, you know, speaking of a God flow of energy, like a God, you know, a good way to connect someone's nervous system back and the conduction of energy, you know, is that it can help to have an understanding of how we were formed and created in the womb, which is why I'm studying this. And yeah, like, you don't want to go against this in any way, this natural flow of creation. And you don't want to do anything, try and connect anything back before someone's ready. So you don't want to dive down any rabbit holes in meditation. So this is where I see people go wrong, because, and this is the main reason that I've ever, like, sort of made any mistakes, like, and mainly I only made the mistakes when I had the rods in, because the rods kept damaging me again and again. So it wasn't a good idea to try and embody myself again, you know, with the rods in. But yeah, I see people, like, they're trying to embody themselves and connect back, you know, proprioceptively, and feel everything, you know, from when they've been damaged or traumatized, and they're, like, forcing it, like, too fast. They're kind of like, oh, I feel that, you know, they're going into, like, every negative emotion, or some people, like, call this shadow work in meditation, and they're, like, trying to, like, delve into every childhood trauma they've ever had. And think of it, like, when you were a child, you were not strong. You didn't have your myelin sheaths. You didn't have your memory. You were, like, highly manipulated and influenced by things around you. So you don't really want, as a therapist, what I see that is dangerous and you don't really want to do. And I use the word dangerous because, I mean, if you're just meditating by yourself, I mean, you can't really go that far into it, you know, like, it only gets really dangerous with anything to do with meditation that I've seen, when people start adding like drugs that are going to, like, manipulate someone's neurological state. But anyway, this, because you can, like, there are some sort of, like, herbs or incenses or things that can, like, send you into, like, a trance, like, hypnotic state. So this is when it can get dangerous. So avoid these sort of, like, trancey, hypnotic things. And I'm not saying relaxation is bad and meditation is bad, because this is a state where our body heals. It goes, you know, it needs to relax and go in the flow. Like, so this is what people think they're doing. They think they're just trying to, and there's some herbs that are very good for that, for relaxing the nerves, that are like very safe, you know, to use. But yeah, anyway, like, you know, maybe you want to start out and not use any herbs and just stick with like just normal like nutrition and like things to start with. But yeah, you don't want to go sink, you know, down a rabbit hole. You don't want to fall into your flop into your trauma, like in an effort to try and connect back and embody yourself. You want to, and this is the main reason why it's so easy to fall down into this rabbit hole, is that most therapy, both psychological and physical, that actually works, like actually progresses you. So I mean, there are things you can try, exercise things that like feel good and like ease the pain a bit and help you manage things, but they don't really ultimately connect the nervous system back again and ultimately work. And the ironic thing is that the ones that do really work are the ones where you have to go into the trauma a little bit, like talk about the trauma a little bit. You have to move the body into this, like the state where it's stuck, to be able to align, to then be able to then try and align the brain and connect back, because you have to start from where you're stuck, from where you're at. You can't run before you walk. So you're not going to help a scoliosis by forcing someone to do these, like a regime of exercises, when they're not in the right place neurologically to do those. So this is why I'm a big believer of like finding intuitively exactly what's right for that person that comes to see you. I don't believe in like routine programs of exercises being able to help someone. I think that a routine program of exercises might help you if you're lucky and you're in the right place for that exercise to work, and that you just happen to be the right exercise for you. I do think, having said that, I do think there are certain exercises that do help scoliosis, like that a lot of people are stuck in that sort of position, and that sort of exercise definitely helps. But maybe the way you do that sort of movement or exercise might be slightly different with each person. Like maybe one person, they might need holding and supporting more loads while they do the, you know, open out and do the exercise. But another person might already be quite ground sort of supported from underneath, but they might need like a band or something, you know, to stretch and open up in and doing the same movement. Or maybe someone else, that I'm giving two examples of someone upright to gravity, which is like where some programs, you know, they favor that approach, which is, you know, has its theories, but again, it's not right for everyone. And then maybe someone else, they might like want to be sideways and just resist against the floor, and they might open out and get the most results from that. So like all three approaches are doing the same movement. They're all opening out, you know, the hunched curve, pushing from the floor, pulling with the band, having, you know, someone hold and support you, and, you know, a ball or something, and then pulling around yourself. You know, and maybe none of those might fully work for you. So you might need, you know, vibration and manipulation and massage of the same, you know, rocking of the same movement in a treatment. Like, so I'm just saying, like, yes, listen to programs and types of exercises, and, you know, take note of the anatomy and the movement planes that you need to do, you know, to help your scoliosis. But please keep in mind that the exact configuration of how someone's nervous system is stuck, off balance and gripped on, and the exact nerve receptors affected, it might be slightly different in each person. Some might need hot, some might need cold, some might need vibration, some might need stretch, some might need compression, they might need weights, or they're not going to get anywhere without a weight. You know, there's different nerve receptors for different things. And this is going to be my next leaflet and video. So my first video was just all about myofascia, an introduction about how it can cause a structural scoliosis, how the trauma is unconsciously held. And then this video is explaining more about, so I didn't really go into how the energy can feel. So obviously if you're like falling in, so if you're doing it well and you're going into the area, connecting it back, it's never going to feel bad. Like it might feel slightly icky or uncomfortable at times, or because it's not nice, that area you're connecting back to, it's not going to feel nice to start with. There might be a slight tiredness or detox or like healing crisis before you feel better, but you should feel better long term if someone is doing a therapy right on you, you're doing the right exercise on yourself, you're eating the right thing. It should always be a progression. It might go in waves, but if you're doing it wrong and you're falling into that rabbit hole, you're falling into the dirty waters of inflammation in your body, you're falling into a trance like a zombie, like that is all that's going to do is make you go down more and more. It's not going to progress you. All it means is that you're somehow, what you're doing is not following the order of creation, the natural flow. You're trying to manipulate things, you're trying to do things in your body before it's ready. So stop, don't do that, do something different. Like, we all make mistakes, and you know, this is probably why some people, they don't want to do self-help at all. Like, I know plenty of people who just want to believe that they have this diagnosis, there's nothing they can do. Maybe they think, I don't know, maybe they have some sort of belief system where they're not allowed to manipulate or try and change anything. But if you're doing therapy well, it's not a manipulation, it's a natural progression in a positive direction, you know, because at the end of the day, you say, I don't want to do anything, but we're doing stuff every day anyway. We're eating food every day, we're moving and exercising every day. So why not do that in a way that's good for you? Like, you don't have to, you're not forcing yourself to get better before you're ready. It's not manipulating. Therapy is not manipulating. It's literally just eating the right foods, taking the right herbs and teas, and like doing the right, you know, having someone support you to do the right movement and activity in your day that is going to actually get you stronger, rather than keep you in a state of disease, which ultimately will just slowly progress. So if you do nothing, it is going to slowly with time get worse if you don't try and do anything to help yourself. So, you know, and yes, if you do something to try and help yourself, sometimes, you know, because we've lost our proprioception and control of parts of our body, sadly, sometimes, you know, you might try and do something before you're ready. You might make little mistakes along the way, but they're only going to be small mistakes if you're doing it helping yourself, you're learning to help yourself. If you go and see someone else, another therapist, and they happen to be a dangerous therapist that's using dangerous incenses and herbs to send you into weird states, or they're like using dangerous massage techniques that are painful and manipulative, like, you can get hurt. There are some bad therapists out there. Like, you know, this is an honest video, but if you do the right things for you, then you know, you should only progress overall. There might be hiccups and bumps because you're dealing with something that has already gone wrong. It's never going to be perfect again, and you have to be quite courageous in a way to want to connect back again and to try and get better, because it can feel icky and not nice connecting back to parts of the body that have been damaged. And maybe some people just want to stay disassociated. They don't want to connect back. They don't want to try anything. Maybe the people that I've met who seem the most sort of worried about doing anything seem to be people who've had really bad disease and virus and infections in the body, and they've been diagnosed now with serious autoimmune conditions like maybe lupus, or really bad type of MS, or like, I don't know, maybe they've had just a lot of injuries before. Maybe they've just had a lot of things happen to them and they haven't known they can do anything, and it's got worse and worse, and now they're in a state where they're actually really nervous about trying a lot of things. And in a way you can understand that, because the more things that have built up, the more courageous and hard it's going to be to get better. So, and like I said before about, you know, sometimes if bacteria is stuck or a virus is there, it can sort of, sometimes it can spread around the body more. So like, but I mean, the thing with scoliosis, when you're a young teenager, you know, unless maybe polio caused your scoliosis, which is not very common nowadays, like unless it was a real disease that wasted the muscles and caused, usually, like, you know, that isn't such a worry. Like when I had my scoliosis when I was a teenager, I wasn't sick. I was doing really well at school and everything. I didn't even know there was anything wrong with me. So I think with scoliosis, you know, you don't have to worry about that so much. People tend to be fitter and more active than with other chronic health conditions. But there are some studies to show maybe some toxins in the system affecting the nervous system, though, with scoliosis, like, you know, like radiation or mercury or things. So again, but with those sort of toxins, to be honest, the body is quite stubborn, I find. Like, unless you find the right like thing to detox that out the system, really the body will just stay rigid and stuck anyway. Like, it's kind of, you can't force someone's body to let go, like if it wants to stubbornly stay twisted or stuck, you know. Like, so just be gentle, be gradual, and try and do a lot of it on yourself. Like, I would say, like, obviously it's impossible, you know, to do like a lot of massage techniques and supportive things on yourself. Like, you can actually massage certain parts of your body that are like further away from the center. But if I need things, you know, like in my center, I have to get my other half to do them on me, and I'm lucky because I've taught him all these techniques. So yeah, you just pick someone who's gentle, who's intuitive, who seems to know what they're talking about, and isn't, yeah, like really look into, I mean, definitely it's good to use certain oils, you know, can help in massage. But as like when I worked as a massage therapist, I always offer people like totally plain oils with no smell or oil or scent or herb, or, you know, I always offer people like both options, because some people, you know, they might just want to just try the therapy on its own and see what that can do. You know, because you can get good results without any oil at all. You know, you can get amazing results just through cloves with massage. So yeah, you just I hope that has sort of shed some more light on the aim of therapy with the nervous system, and how it's almost like an analogy of connecting back to the light again, to God or whatever you want to call it, and the pitfalls of trying to force meditation and manipulate things that might make you fall into murky waters, that could make you susceptible to feeling tired, or the, you know, flopping into trauma. And you don't want to go down into that dark place. You want to gradually hold the body, listen to it when it's ready to connect back. You want to sort of align the dark place with the light, gradually wait till it's the right thing to connect back, and it will do its thing in its own time if it's supported and held in the right way. So this is what I'm saying, it's not going to necessarily just heal by itself if you do nothing. So I hope this is making any sense to people. If you think about it in a purely scientific neurological way, it makes total sense to me. So I do try and leave spirituality and religion out of this, but inevitably, if you go into the therapy field, you go and see practitioners, you're going to see these things advertised, these like regressions, you know, psychological, physical regression, shadow work, trauma healing. You're going to see all of this come up. So I think it's good to explain neurologically what we're aiming for when we're doing that work, and what we're not aiming for. We're not aiming to collapse into trance and there can be, you know, I don't know about spiritual dangers. It could just make you feel really just more tired and worse for most people. But if someone is using certain herbs or things, there can be spiritual dangers as well. PTSD, there could be a danger of being stuck in a PTSD trauma. If something, you keep trying to connect something back that is keeping on being re-damaged and isn't ready to connect back, you don't want to go into trauma that's not ready. Okay, I've waffled on for like 40 minutes now because it's such a heavy topic, and it's so essential to get it right with therapy. You know, yeah, it's definitely an important topic. So I hope I'm gonna send a leaflet with some links and some research explaining these like neurological phenomena I'm talking about. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.